The Phoenix Effect: How Black Women Are Rising from Job Loss to Entrepreneurial Revolution. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to begin by acknowledging the extraordinary individual whose research and advocacy have fundamentally transformed our understanding of resilience, entrepreneurship, and economic justice in America. Jazzy Howard isn't just a researcher, she's a visionary whose groundbreaking work has illuminated one of the most powerful yet an underreported economic phenomena of our time. Through meticulous documentation and unwavering commitment, Jazzy has done something truly revolutionary. She's completely reframed the narrative around Black women in the economy. Where others saw only victims of systemic inequality, she revealed architects of innovative solutions. Where traditional economists spotted only job loss statistics, she uncovered a historic entrepreneurial renaissance. Her commitment to highlighting stories of transformation rather than just trauma has created an entirely new framework that empowers communities nationwide and challenges the very foundations of how we understand economic resilience. Today, I'm honored to share the insights from our conversation, insights that I believe will fundamentally change how you think about adversity, opportunity, and the true nature of resilience in America today. We've all heard the saying that when one door closes, another opens. It's the kind of platitude that can feel empty when you're standing in the hallway, locked out, wondering which way to turn. But what if that closed door isn't just an obstacle? What if it's actually an invitation? This is the counterintuitive truth I discovered through my conversation with Jazzy Howard. A truth that challenges everything we think we know about adversity, opportunity, and who gets to define success in America today. Here's the surprising reality. Despite facing the steepest job losses and most persistent systemic barriers in today's workforce, Black women are currently leading a historic wave of entrepreneurship, outpacing all other demographic groups in starting new businesses. This isn't just interesting, it's revolutionary. It fundamentally challenges the narrative that adversity only leads to setbacks. Instead, we're witnessing how Black women are transforming obstacles into opportunities for innovation and leadership. Let that sink in for a moment. The very group experiencing the most significant economic headwinds is simultaneously creating the most new businesses. This isn't coincidence, it's resilience reimagined. According to Gusto's new business formation report from 2025 that Jazzy shared with me, nearly half, 49%, of all new businesses launched last year were started by women, with Black women leading this surge, particularly in sectors like healthcare and community services. This trend accelerated dramatically after pandemic era layoffs pushed many out of corporate roles, but inspired them to build ventures rooted in their skills and communities. One might assume this entrepreneurial boom represents a privileged few with access to capital and connections. But that assumption would be wrong. In fact, these new business owners are often women who faced the harshest economic realities. In April 2025 alone, over 100,000 jobs held by Black women disappeared, the largest decline for any demographic, even as overall U.S. employment grew. Systemic discrimination, compounded by anti DEI policy rollbacks, reduced both federal positions and private sector hiring for Black professionals. The unemployment rate for Black women rose from 5.1% to 6.1% in a matter of months. Yet instead of simply seeking to re enter a job market that had rejected them, Many of these women pivoted toward freelancing or business ownership. They created service based enterprises catering directly to their community's needs. They built what they couldn't find, they hired where others wouldn't. This isn't just adaptation, it's transformation. But let's be clear, this isn't a feel good story about pulling oneself up by the bootstraps. The systemic barriers remain formidable and deeply unjust. Female only founding teams receive just $6.70 billion, or only about 2.3% of total venture capital invested nationally last year. For Black women founders, that percentage shrinks to nearly microscopic levels. Traditional venture capital gatekeeping has excluded countless qualified applicants, perpetuating cycles of inequity that have defined American entrepreneurship for generations. What makes this moment so remarkable is not that these barriers have disappeared, they haven't, but that Black women are creating alternative pathways around them. Entrepreneurs increasingly rely on alternative finance channels, including peer to peer lending groups specifically tailored for minority founders. Mentorship collectives provide guidance beyond financial support. Digital platforms have enabled more direct connections between investors and founders outside legacy circles. The result? The growth rate among funded companies led by diverse teams has begun outpacing those with homogeneous leadership structures. This isn't just about individual success stories, it's about community transformation. It's about redefining what entrepreneurship looks like nationwide while creating jobs within historically underserved neighborhoods. It's about building financial ecosystems centered on equity rather than exclusionary practices. When I asked Jazzy about what drives this remarkable resilience, she emphasized that it's not just about surviving setbacks, it's about rewriting your story. The entrepreneurial boom among Black women proves that even when doors close in traditional employment spaces, new paths can be forged through vision, collaboration, and self determination. But here's where our conventional thinking fails us. We tend to frame this kind of resilience as exceptional, as though it requires superhuman strength or extraordinary circumstances. We celebrate the individual triumph while ignoring the collective wisdom that makes it possible. What if we've been looking at resilience all wrong? What if resilience isn't an individual trait, but a community practice? What if it's not about bouncing back, but about bouncing forward into new possibilities that didn't exist before? The data from Jazzy's research suggests exactly this. The network supporting displaced workers transitioning into founders didn't emerge from nowhere. They grew from existing community bonds, from shared experiences of exclusion, from collective knowledge about how to navigate systems not designed for their success. This challenges our deeply individualistic understanding of entrepreneurship. The myth of the lone genius founder working in isolation simply doesn't match reality, especially for those who've been systematically excluded from traditional pathways. Instead, we see entrepreneurship as a collaborative act of community resilience. When one woman starts a business, she often creates opportunities for others. When she succeeds, she reaches back to pull others forward. When she innovates, she does so with her community's needs in mind. This isn't just heartwarming, it's economically powerful. It creates more sustainable businesses because they're rooted in real community needs. It generates more equitable growth because prosperity is shared rather than concentrated. It builds more resilient local economies because they're diversified rather than dependent on a single industry or employer. But there's an even deeper insight here that Jazzy Howard's research reveals. The very experiences that create barriers, discrimination, exclusion, having to navigate hostile systems, also develop unique skills that prove invaluable in entrepreneurship. Think about it. When you've spent years navigating workplaces that weren't designed for you, you develop extraordinary adaptability. When you've had to create something from nothing with limited resources, you become masterfully resourceful. When you've built support networks outside traditional systems, you become skilled at relationship building and community engagement. These aren't just survival skills, they're entrepreneurial superpowers. And they explain why, despite receiving just a tiny fraction of venture funding, businesses led by Black women are showing remarkable resilience and growth. They've been practicing the art of creating something from nothing their entire lives. This reframes our entire understanding of adversity and opportunity. What if the very experiences we label as disadvantages can, under the right conditions, become advantages? What if being forced to create alternative pathways actually prepares you to innovate in ways others can't imagine? This isn't to romanticize struggle or suggest that systemic barriers are somehow beneficial. They're not. They're unjust and must be dismantled. But it does suggest that our understanding of resilience needs to evolve beyond simple narratives of overcoming obstacles. True resilience isn't just about surviving within broken systems, it's about reimagining and rebuilding those systems entirely. And this is precisely what Black women entrepreneurs are doing right now across America. They're not just starting businesses, they're pioneering new models of leadership, new approaches to community wealth building, new visions of what success can look like. They're showing us that when traditional doors close, we don't just need to find new doors, we can build entirely new structures. So, where do we go from here? What does this mean for each of us in this room today? It means we must radically rethink our relationship with both adversity and opportunity. It means acknowledging that the most innovative solutions often come from those who've been excluded from existing systems because they've had to imagine alternatives. It means asking ourselves, how can we support these entrepreneurs, not just with our words, but with our resources, our networks, our purchasing power? How can we apply these lessons of collective resilience to our own communities and challenges? And perhaps most importantly, it means recognizing that the future of innovation doesn't look like the past. It doesn't wear the same face or speak with the same voice. It emerges from unexpected places, from the very communities we've been taught to underestimate. I challenge each of you today. Look around at the problems in your community. Look at the doors that have closed, and then look for the windows being built by those who refuse to accept that closure as final. Support them, learn from them, join them. Because the extraordinary rise of Black women entrepreneurs in the face of systemic barriers isn't just inspiring, it's prophetic. It shows us what's possible when we transform adversity into fuel for creation, when we turn exclusion into innovation, when we recognize that sometimes the most powerful response to a system that says no is to build something entirely new. This is the wisdom Jazzy Howard has illuminated through her groundbreaking research. This is the future being built right now, business by business, community by community, innovation by innovation. The question isn't whether this entrepreneurial revolution will continue. The question is whether we will have the wisdom to see it, support it, and learn from it. Because in a world of closing doors, these women aren't just finding windows, they're building entirely new houses, and they're inviting us all in. Thank you